right. Hey guys, Mr. Kyle, Myers Mathematics, and let's just jump right into it. So, we have left what's called the basics and are on to some inequalities. So we actually kind of left a whole unit of things that were kind of a precursor to really Algebra 1. So if you've been following the series, all I've been doing so far is really a precursor to stuff you really learn in Algebra 1, and this is considered the first thing according to Kuta software and how they structure things. So let's get started. We just want to draw a graph for each inequality. Okay, well then we really only need two things. We need to know which way the sign is facing. Well, I guess three things. We'll say three things. So we need to know which way it's facing. Is it facing that way, or is it facing that way? Notice they're facing two different ways there. Problem 1 and problem 4. Okay, facing two different ways. It's either facing so that the arrow goes left. Notice I can turn the less than sign into a left arrow. So less than means it goes left. And I'll go ahead and erase what I've got here so you can see what it was. Can you imagine now seeing an arrow in the middle of that? See that arrow there? You can draw that arrow just like that. So that if it's a less than sign, then it's an arrow pointing to the left. Right? So if it's a less than sign, it's an arrow pointing to the left. And then this other one, like for number 4 here, it's an arrow that's pointing to the right. It's an arrow pointing to the right. Okay, so that tells us whether to draw a left arrow or a right arrow. Okay, so it either goes like this, which means it's going left. Okay, so it's going like this, which means it's going left. Or it's going like this, which means it's going right. Okay, and you don't necessarily have to remember which one is less than and which one is greater than. It is good to know that, and you should know that, but you don't have to know that to use this little trick. Okay, so if you see the arrow and it's pointing left, that's a left arrow, and a right is a right arrow. Did I just write a right arrow twice? I did. Nobody stopped me either. Come on, guys. So we want a right arrow to be like this. Sorry. Whoops. So if you have a right arrow, it's going to go to the right. If you have a left arrow, it's going to go to the left. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph this one. So number 1, we're going to plot -5. It's right here. And I want to put a closed circle, and I'll tell you why in a second. But I'm going to put a little dot right here at 5, -5. And then it's an arrow going left. So I want to go left, which is this way. And then there we go. That's the answer. Okay, so we needed 3 things. We needed to know 1, the number. Okay, so 1 was the number. 1. We need the number. 2, we need to know whether to put an open or closed circle at the number. Open or closed circle at the number. And then 3, we just need to know whether I go left or right, which we've already covered. So left or left, if you were following what I was doing earlier. Left or right. Okay, so we need the number, we need to know open or closed circle at the number, and then we need to know whether we're going left or right. All right, well, we know the number is 5, so that's right here. And we need to know whether it's an open or closed circle at the number. Okay, well, it's either going to be like this or like this, which means it's a closed circle. Okay, so if you see like a little bar underneath the inequality, that means that it says or equal to. So this one would read less than or equal to, and this one reads greater than or equal to. And let me separate that from step 3, because I don't want you to think I'm talking about step 3 here. All right. So less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, closed circle. If we have a less than or a greater than, that's an open circle. So actually for number 2, it's the same thing, except we're at 5. So closed circle at 5. Okay, closed circle at 5. Really, we probably want to figure out whether we're doing open or closed circle before we plot the point. So really, we want to switch step 2 with step 1. But anyways, we want to have 5 right here, and it's a closed circle, and then it goes left. So I go left. All right, let's start to switch colors here. I do really like blue, but not everybody does, so we're going to start changing shades here. Next, notice I'm not focusing on the letter. The letter actually doesn't matter because the letter isn't on a number line. There's no letters on number lines. So if I have a 1, and it's an open circle because it's this guy right here, then I put an open circle at 1. So that looks like this. Right? Closed circle, regular circle, right? Like when you fill in an answer choice for multiple choice, versus open circle, which is, the multiple choice answers that you didn't shade in because you're not supposed to shade in more than 1 for multiple choice. So it's at 1, it's an open circle, and it goes left because there's an arrow going to the left. So I go like this. All right, next. It is 2, and it is a open circle at 2. It looks like this. Right? So it's an open circle at 2. Let's do that. So that's step 1 and step 2. Open circle at 2. And then do we go left or do we go right? Well, it looks like we go right. So let's go to the right. All right. Change colors again. Go to green here. And let's see. So as we start to scroll down, you're going to see less of the page. So we got to figure out what to do here from memory. We have a 5. And is that going to be an open circle or a closed circle? Well, how about open circle? It looks like this. Open circle. Okay, so open circle at 5. And then are we going to go left or right? Well, it looks like we're going to go to the right. Next. -2. Open circle or closed circle? Well, looks like it's this one. That's a closed circle because it has the or equal to part. Okay, so closed circle at -2. That was step 1 and step 2. Step 1, the number. Step 2, whether to put a closed or open circle at the number. And then step 3, do we go left or right? And it looks like we go left. So we go left. And there we go. All right, switching colors again. And let's move down. Okay, so -2, and it's a closed circle, right? Because it's the or equal to thing. -2, closed circle, and then it's going left. All right. And here, -5, okay. And it's an open circle because we don't have the or equal to. And it's going left. So we go left. All right. Next color. And actually, I'm going to switch things up a little bit once we get to the second page here, because there's actually another way to do this that you might be learning, because you might be like, what? Closed circles and open circles? And if that's kind of throwing you off and you guys are learning how to use brackets and parentheses instead, go ahead and skip to the next page, and I'll show you the brackets and parentheses. But I'm going to do open and closed circles for the rest of this page at least here. Okay, so 2. And we have an closed circle because it includes. Closed circle because it includes. And it's greater than, so we go to the right. A la derecha. And there we go. So la respuesta. So we have V. Oh, wait, hold on. This is different. I don't know if you caught it. They tried to be tricky. Look, they have the X first. The M is first. The K is first. The R is first, the N is first, the X is first, the R is first, the N is first, the N is first. But on number 10, the V is last. We have to switch that before we can get started. So this is like step 0. All right, let's rewrite the steps off to the side here. So if you remember, we're writing black here. So if you remember, step 1 was to identify the number, right? So identify number, identify the number, okay? Step 2, we want to put a closed or an open circle at the number. Closed or open circle at the number. And then 3, we want to go left or right. Okay, so that was the 3 steps. But on this one, there's kind of a step 0 because we don't want to try to graph it right now. It looks like it's a greater than, which means I would shade to the right. But it's tricky because we don't have the number and the letter where they need to go. So we need to do step 0. Okay, step 0 is to switch it. Switch. So the number is on the right. We have to have the number on the right and the letter on the left, okay? So switch to the numbers on the right. So we just want to switch it. Now when we switch it, you have to be careful to switch the sign too, okay? Like if I were to read this right now, I would read this as -5 greater than or equal to v. If I read it backwards, it would read v is less than or equal to -5. See how I did that? So I had to switch the v and the -5. Nothing happened to the v and the -5. There's still v and -5. I don't have to make it +5 or -v or anything like that. But the sign in between them has to flip because it's an inequality. Okay? So I need to flip it around. And once I flip it around, let's get rid of this old thing. Okay? Let's get rid of that. We don't need that anymore. That's just going to confuse us if we keep that around. Okay? So step 0, we want to switch it so that the number's on the right. The number is now on the right. A la derecha. So now step 1, just continue as usual here. Step 1, identify the number, -5. Closed or open circle on the number? It's going to be closed circle because it's including -5 because it's got the little bar underneath it. And then do we go left or right? Well, we go left. This way. Whew, that was kind of tricky. But now you know, if you see that the letter is not on the left and the number is not on the right, then you need to switch them. Speaking of, they put 2 of those things right back to back. So let's go ahead and look at that. Number 11, we want to switch it so we say v is less than or equal to -2. Okay? Reading it forwards, it's -2 is greater than or equal to v. Reading it backwards, v is less than or equal to -2. So let's get rid of this now. No más. This is gone. Okay, so now we have -2 is right here, and we want to put a closed circle. And we want to go to the left. Just like that. All right, there's the answer. Next, we have this one. Now, this one's fine. The number's on the right. So step 0, done. Step 1, the number is 5, and we want to put an open circle this time because it doesn't have the little bar underneath it. And the arrow points to the left. So we go to the left, to the left. All right. So remember how I was just talking about that we wanted to do a different way to graph this thing. So there's actually this thing where sometimes you want to graph using a bracket or a parentheses, and that's because there's also a way to write the answer to these things in what's called interval notation, okay? So if that sounds a little confusing, don't worry, I'm not going to talk about interval notation just yet. But I do want to talk about using a bracket or a parentheses because that is a way that people can graph the answers to these, okay? And it's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. So if I have a less than or greater than, then I would do an open circle, right? Open circle. Okay. Now, if I want to do, instead of an open circle, I want to do this bracket parentheses thing, then I would use a parentheses. Parentheses. Okay. So it did mean to use open circle, but instead of using an open circle, I can actually use a parentheses. Or, if I have this, then I would do a closed circle, right? Closed circle, because it has a little bar underneath it. But instead of doing a parentheses, I would do a bracket. Okay. Oh, and by the way, parentheses, bracket. Right. So brackets are like the square parentheses. All right, let's take a look at what that would look like. So we have, oh, wait, hold on. It's not already solved for x. You see that? It's got a negative. Ooh, be careful. careful with that. So what we have to do then is we have to get the x so that it's not negative. It's not currently solved for x. So this is another, this is like step -1. If the equation's not solved for x, you have to solve for x first. So let's do that. Okay, so this is 2. Well, if I just multiply by -1 on both sides, then -1 times -1x, right? If it's a negative x, it's a -1x. If I do that, it'll make x. A negative times a negative is a positive. So -1x times -1 is just x. It would be 1x, positive 1x. Now, whenever I multiply or divide by a negative, I have to flip the sign. Okay? And then this would be a -2. So that was kind of tricky, but it's the only thing in an inequality that is different from an equation. In an equation, you just solve stuff, and you just add 2 to both sides, and divide by 3 on both sides, or whatever you need to do. And you do the same thing with inequalities, but when you multiply or divide by a negative number in an inequality, you have to flip the sign of the inequality as well. Okay? So now it's no longer this. It is now this. X is less than or equal to -2. Okay? So here's -2. And I would do a closed circle, but instead I'm going to do a bracket. So instead of doing a closed circle, I do a bracket. I have to figure out which bracket to do, though. So I'm going to actually go to the next step, which is, do I go left or right? I go left. So I put a bracket that goes like that at -2. Okay? This is probably one of the hardest ways to graph these, but it translates really nicely into interval notation. So if you've seen this, awesome. If you have not seen this, I think I'm going to do both brackets, parentheses, open circles, and closed circles towards the end, and kind of blend the two so that you can see that, if you do the open circle, closed circle first, that's a little easier. And then if you do bracket and parentheses afterwards, then it makes your life a little easier if you need to turn that into interval notation afterwards. But if you've only ever learned open and closed circle, then you can just skip to the end where I'm talking about open and closed circle again. Okay? So on this one, not only is the a negative, but the 5 is on the wrong side, and the a is on the wrong side as well. There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on here. So let's solve this first. So 5 less than or equal to -a. Well, I could multiply by -1 and then just flip them. Or I could add a to both sides and subtract 5 from both sides. Either one would actually be fine. Since we've just been talking about multiplying by a -1, let's do both. Let's do both. If I multiply by -1, then it would look like this. If I multiply by -1, right? The a would become positive, the 5 would become negative, and I'd have to flip the sign. Then I want to flip the whole inequality. So it's like I'm flipping the sign back and keeping the thing the same. Okay? Or I could add a to both sides. And I could say a, if I add a to both sides, it would be a plus 5 greater than or equal to 0. Then I could subtract 5 on both sides and get this. Oh, look at that. I got the same thing. Okay? So whichever of those you were tracking with a little better, just, that seems to be your preferred method then, okay? And practice it some more. I'm not going to do a ton of examples of it, and I know maybe that's a little bit confusing still, but we'll probably cover some of this stuff later on where you have to switch the sign of inequalities and stuff like that. So just stay tuned for the next one, and we'll probably go in more in depth then, okay? But let's go ahead and graph it. So we want to do open circle, closed circle, bracket, parentheses. We want to do a bracket because it's a closed circle, because it's a or equal to. And it's at 5. Oh, sorry, -5. I was looking at this. Forgot to scratch that out. You always want to scratch it out, otherwise you go get messed up like I almost did. We are at -5, and we have a bracket, and we're going to the right. -5 bracket, and we're going to the right. So it looks like this. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and switch colors. Now we're on orange. And, oh, they want you to write the inequality for each graph. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and just do 2 more of these. So if I want to go less than, that's going to go to the right from, was that 2 or -2? That was +2. Okay. I keep saying like right when I'm meaning left and left when I'm meaning right. Sorry, guys. That was a left, not a right. I need to get my left and my right not mixed up, huh? So we want to go left from 2, and we want to put a bracket because it's got the bar. It's got the bar, so we want to use bars. Bars for bars. All right, this one's at 5. So we're here, and we want to go left again. So left from 5, and with a bracket. Okay, and the bracket always points towards the line. Okay, so it goes like that. Now, I said I was going to do both, so let's blend the two. We're going to do both. Okay, so first we have to flip this around. B is less than -5. Flip the sign if you switch them around, okay? So switch that around. And then here's what we do. We say, okay, well, that would be an open circle at -5. Open circle at -5, and we want to go left. So it's going to go like this. Okay. Now, if it's an open circle, that's a parenthesis, so then boom, I could just put a parenthesis right through the open circle. Look at that. Done. All right, here, same thing. I need to flip it around. B is less than -2. Okay, B is less than -2. So that's going to start here at -2, open circle, and then I go left. Okay, and an open circle would be a parenthesis. So there you go, parentheses. Okay. Now, for the last few here, we actually need to write the inequality for the graph, so we're kind of going in reverse order now. We are saying, okay, well, I need to know a letter, and we can just use X. We could just use X for all of them. It doesn't matter what letter you use. Notice it didn't matter what the letter was, just that the letter was in the right place. So we're using X's, we used M, K, N, R, and it didn't matter. Right? So just choose a letter. If you want to use a different letter each time, you can. I'm just going to use X because I'm boring like that. So I'm going to use X. Oh, you know what? Ever since I said that, I'm like, I don't want to be boring. Ugh. How about I just spell out my name? I'll put like Mr. Kyle or something like that. How many of these are there? There's 6. Perfect. Okay. So we're going to do Mr. Kyle. It's decided. That's more fun. Okay, so we're going to start off with M. And then we need a less than or a greater than. Okay, well, it's going this way, right? So look at the arrow. What sign is that? That's this sign. See that? Huh? Okay, so then we have, okay, well, it's closed circle, right? So we need the bar. Closed circle, we need the bar. And then where's the number? Where's the number either start or end at, right? Where does the line start or end at? It starts / ends at 5. And there we go. Okay, so you come up with a number. So step 1, you need a letter, right? So make up a letter. Make up a letter. And then step 2, we identify the arrow. So find the arrow. Find the arrow. And make that sign. Make that sign. Okay. Okay, so that was this part right here. When I took the arrow and I made that sign. Okay. Then, if it's open circle or closed circle, that tells you whether you need the bar. Okay, so add the bar, right? The bar if a closed circle. So notice if there's an open circle, you don't do anything. You just leave it alone. You still need the little less than or greater than symbol, but you don't need to add anything else if it's an open circle. So we're good. Add the bar if it's a closed circle. and then just add the number, right? So add the number, aka where the line, and I'm calling it a line, but it's really a ray because lines go in both directions. So I'm going to call it a ray here. And add the number, aka where the ray starts. Starts or ends at. And that was what I did, okay? So let me show you again here. Step 1, make up a letter, all right? So MR, Mr. Okay, step 1. Step 2, find the arrow and make that sign. Here's the arrow, make that sign. Step 2. Step 3, add the bar if it's a closed circle. Well, it's an open circle, so step 3, done. Step 4, add the number, aka where the ray starts or ends at. It starts or ends at -1, depending on how you look at it, right? If you're looking at it like from right to left, then it would be like where it starts. If you're looking at it from left to right, then it's where it ends. So that's why I say starts/ends. Okay, let's switch colors again. Do like this purplish red thing. So now we need a letter, M-R-K. All right, Mr. K. And so that was step 1. Step 2, find the arrow, make that sign. Here's the arrow, make that sign. Step 3, add the bar if it's a closed circle. Well, it's an open circle, so I don't need the bar. And then step 4, add the number. The number's -1. All right, let's go a little faster, see if you can keep up here. And you can always slow it down if you need to, right? So find the letter, okay, M-R-K-Y, okay, sign, and I don't add a bar, and it's at -5. All right, and do purple here, or whatever the color that is. All right, last two, ready? So we do K-Y, okay, next would be L, and I don't like L's because they look like ones, so I'm going to do a cursive L, L, and then less than, and then it's an open circle, so I don't add the bar, and it starts/ends at 2. And then E. E, less than, close circle, add the bar, -5, and we're done. That is it. So check it out here. Here's the answers. Okay. Let me know if I got any of them wrong in the comments below. It's always a possibility. I thought right was right and left was right at the beginning of this. So, if you stuck in through that, congratulations. And they used NPRAPN. Okay, I think they just randomized the letters because that doesn't spell anything besides rap. But I really don't think that was intentional. Okay, cool. So those are the answers. And if you haven't already gotten my awesome free guide, it's at nope, not Mr. Kyle, that's my email. MyersMathematics.com is where you can find that awesome free guide. It's called The 5 Math Mistakes Everyone Makes and How to Avoid Them. Okay, so if you haven't gotten that, it's awesome. It's on my website, for free. So go check that out. And this has been Mr. Kyle at Myers Mathematics. Have a good